So here we go for PTQ Dragons Mage. We're in the semi-final, covering our guy Matt Light. We've been following him all the way through the day, and he's just finished sideboarding and presenting his deck to Cyrus playing John. So let's have a little think about these sideboard cards and what we're going to be seeing from each of them.
Cyrus is probably going to be bringing in a little bit of discard here. He might bring in Rakdos Charm or something like that away to attack Matt's graveyard. Not too sure on that front. He might have access to Relic or something like that, which can do a similar job. Matt is going to have boarded into Celestial Purge, that we know for sure, because he has admitted to having a pretty big fear of Liliana. He might have boarded in something like Pithing Needle, because Pithing Needle can name Raging Ravine. And that's certainly one of the things which, one of the cards where Cyrus can sort of get around Matt's sort of removal. Whether Matt feels he needs that or not, because Ravine is still very vulnerable to Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, and
it's another Lily out though, right?
Yep.
You know, it's hard to remember that some of the cards that were printed before Planeswalkers came out still interact against Planeswalkers. There's certain cards that don't interact against Planeswalkers. I think Oblivion Stone's one of them.
I know Pernicious Deed is definitely one of them.
Yes, Pernicious Deed. That was the classic. Destroy stuff that isn't Planeswalkers.
Yep. Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yes, Oblivion Stone is non-land permanent,
non-land
so that
permanent,
does deal with it.
Whereas Pernicious Deed
very
has
specifically reads out what it
creatures,
can destroy.
artifacts and enchantments it destroys. So it's a...
So if you're looking to build a Planeswalker deck for EDH...
Well, in fact that deck was very popular in Legacy, because Jace the Mind Sculptor, Liliana and Pernicious Deed play pretty well with each other. It's not much more demoralising when you've got no permanents and your opponent has a Jace the Mind Sculptor and a Liliana in place. Generally you don't win from that situation. Well, it's empty board-tastic from both players at the moment.
And this is it's really good for Cyrus. You know, that's what he wants to see with Jund. We always talk about this in Jund. You know,
I mean, Jund's mainly going to be the aggro deck in this matchup, so I'd feel like Matt is probably the happier of the two.
as long as the
going that way.
Vendilion click doesn't come down, you know, Cyrus can always slip out that sort of one casting cost discard spell. You know, just try and disrupt Matt and then sneak out a Tarmogoyf.
I mean, that's certainly one thing that can separate a player who's good with Jund or a black deck in general from someone who isn't. You very often see players just firing off discard spells on turn one, and often discard spells are just way too valuable to be doing that against these decks. It's often very much more useful to play them on turn 3 or 4, where you can genuinely force something through.
Well, I mean, if you've got your perfect curve, you don't really get an opportunity until turn 3 or 4 if you've got your Deathrite Shaman to start you off.
Unfortunately for Matt, he's missed his 4th land drop there, and he's ended up throwing a Lightning Bolt to avoid discard. And we'll see if Cyrus can take advantage of what he's doing there. Making sure to give Matt access to Shadow of Doubt there. So again, we've sort of got Matt's deck really not behaving too well for him here, but
so you want to run into a mana leak? Is the question at this point?
Definitely what Matt's.
You notice how he's moved the 2 land to the side, so you kind of know it's a 2-drop.
Yep, Tarmogoyf it is.
And if that sticks, we might see a Bob or another Tarmogoyf.
Another Tarmogoyf. That's really bad news for Matt.
Were there any other instants in the graveyard before that point?
No, I don't. Yes, I believe there's a Think Twice in there, but that can be... oh no, the Think Twice has been removed, so no, there isn't.
So these are slightly bigger Tarmogoyfs now, thanks to the Lightning Bolt.
Yep, they are 2/3s. But because they're 2/3s, it looks like Matt's going to be able to Lightning Helix one of them, which is a little bit embarrassing for the old Goyf there, but the other one's 3/4 going to make up for it a little bit. And Matt did lament a little bit about his deck, that it does feel a bit vulnerable to the X4s. And so a deck like the black, white, green junk deck that we saw in the hands of Jim Corwood at Liverpool running Loxton Smiters and
Yeah,
like that is a
the junk deck is a deck that, you know, has a couple of really good matchups, counteracted by the fact that it has a couple of appalling matchups as well.
But if you,
Yeah.
wow, Cirrus has brought in Sowing Salt in this matchup as well. I mean, I would suppose that's for Matt's Colonnades the most part, but I suppose when you can get a free screw over, he's gone for that as well. And in fact, Matt's hand is just timely reinforcements. That's one card I didn't think of, but he's got timely reinforcements, Celestial Purge, Supreme Verdict. So he has all the tools he could want, but Cyrus has just levelled his mana. And that's really not a card I'd have expected out of the sideboard of Jund.
Who knows? Maybe it was main deck to replace a Bloodbraid Elf.
No, it just seems like one of those cards which people bought in against Control. It was like people who bought in Land Destruction against Control, you know, for a long period of time. A lot of players in Standard brought in Land Destruction against Control.
I mean, the kind of stuff you bring in against Control is the kind of stuff that actually resolves.
Mm.
You know, that's surely what you're looking for. You're looking for spells that will resolve and have an effect against Control.
Yeah, I mean, Matt does rely on Celestial Colonnade a lot for damage, so it certainly makes sense what he's doing, but it just rather large screw over from Cyrus there. And we can see Matt also brought in Leyline of Sanctity, so he had an awful lot of sideboard for this game, but he's just really not been able to get into the game. Mainly due to his own deck and Cyrus's sideboard choice.
Well, you know, and that's part of what Magic is about. You know, you're playing against an opponent, and if that opponent is good, he makes good choices and makes your life very hard for you. But other times you will get a free win, simply because your opponent chooses to lose rather than you chose to win a game of Magic.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, Cyrus most definitely is choosing to win.
Yeah.
Though that said, you know, the Tarmogoyfs each game certainly help.
Yep. And he clocks Matt again, and Matt is down to 2. And I think we're looking at the final curtain here for Matt in this tournament.
But semi-final is definitely a good run. It won't be considered good enough for Matt. You know, Matt very much wanted to win this, but hey, you know, everyone wants to when they enter the tournament. So we'll go on and we'll cover the final irrespective of losing our guy, and we'll see what happens on the other side of the draw.